I've been wanting to build my own bike, but not just a road bike or a bike that you would use for training on. I've been wanting to build a city bike. You see, I live in London, and anybody that lives in London knows that cycling is, without a doubt, the best way to get around. It's so much better than sitting in your car or sitting on the hot and stuffy tube. So I wanted a bike that I could use to cycle around the city, but I didn't want any old city bike that you can just buy off a shelf. I wanted something which was personalised and had a bit of personality to it. It's also a bike that I'm going to use to ride off-road, so on canal paths or bridleways, or maybe even a bit of adventure riding, because that's something I've been really wanting to do a bit more of. So it needed to be a really versatile bike. So in my mind, that is a flat-barred bike for greater comfort and easier handling when you're going off-road or trying to move around traffic. And also it allows you to fit a rack because the drops aren't getting in the way. And now a rack is really important to me because I spend a lot of time riding to my friends' houses or meeting people out at parks or the commons, so it needed to be able to carry my stuff, most notably crates of beer. I also wanted a steel frame because they tend to be a bit stronger and more bomb-proof, but also they're just really cool, and I wanted this build to be really cool. So that's a very brief overview of what I want from this bike. But now I think we just have to go and build it. So let's start with the frame. And as I mentioned before, I wanted something that was steel to take the hard knocks that you can expect when you're riding off-road or riding around the city. So I opted for a brand called Surly, and in particular, the Surly Straggler. Now this ticks all the boxes that I mentioned previously. It's steel, so it's going to be really nice and strong. It's got external cable routing, so minimum faff when it comes to building and maintaining it. It's a disc brake frame, as you can see on the rear here. It's got the mounts for that, and in the fork in the box, it's got the mounts for the front. I wanted a disc brake bike because rim brake's fine, but when you're riding in the city, if it's purpose designed to be ridden in the city with a little bit off-roading, you know that you're going to want disc brakes for the extra stopping power. One key consideration that the frame absolutely had to have, and I swear by this, is an external threaded bottom bracket, because the last thing I want is a press fit bottom bracket squeaking as soon as it gets wet or dirty, and most importantly, they're super easy to change yourself. You just have to take them out and pop a new one in, and the new ones are never that expensive either. So I've opted for a SRAM rival drivetrain, but a 1x, so there's no second ring on this. This is a 42 ring chain ring. Okay, I could go bigger. If I'm going to be riding around London, I could have gone for a larger ring than a 42, but it's not about pushing a big gear. This bike is just about riding around to your mate's place. It's about being able to spin up the climbs and coast down the other side. It's not about pushing a massive gear. So a 42 will be absolutely fine. The secret to this whole drivetrain build is that I'm going to be using a flat bar on this bike, so I couldn't use traditional drops, so I've had to go for SRAM's trigger shifter here. So this will just sit on the flat bars like a normal one and just be done with one hand. No need for drops, no need for multiple shifters, just the one will do. So you might be wondering, where are the brakes? Well, I've opted for something a little different to SRAM. I've opted for Shimano. So when I was mountain biking, I always much preferred Shimano brakes to SRAM brakes, mostly because I found them much easier to maintain. The bleeding process was a lot more simple than that of SRAM's, or I found personally. So for this build, I've opted for Shimano Dior brakes because not only do they have a really nice feel, they're really well built. They're completely bomb-proof. I used to run these on my mountain bike and I just never ever had to touch them. They just always worked and they were always absolutely fine. And this bike is about no faff, so that's why these earn a place on the build. So for the wheels, I opted for something a little bit different, and these are the Mason by Hunt Adventure Sport wheels. So these are 650B wheels, or 27.5 inch, and I opted for that size because although the Surly frame is perfectly capable of taking 700C wheels, I wanted something which was going to give me a little bit more clearance, because bear in mind, I'm going to be running these with wide WTB tyres. I wanted something that was going to give me more space within the frame, and 650B was perfect for that. It's also great for riding off-road as well. Now these wheels are tubeless ready, and that's how I'll be running them on the build to minimise any faff and to avoid having any punctures. And these are 24mm deep aluminium rims, so they should be really bomb-proof as well. So for the cassette, I've opted for a 12 to 36, which isn't nearly as wide as what you might find on a mountain bike, but it will be enough to give me the range I need to get up and over any hills I should come across when riding around town. And now for the cherry on the cake. The piece de resistance of the build, the rack. So this whole bike is about carrying my stuff around town. I'm fed up of riding with a rucksack, and in the summer, I ride around London with a lot of beer, and this is going to carry that beer. So when I'm going to meet my friends, this 24-pack rack, which is actually what this is called, it's a perfect size to fit a nice big crate of beer on it. So I've got my Surly back home and I've been riding it around town, and it has been sweet, except for one thing, which was the widths of the handlebars. So I've had to take a hacksaw to them. They're now down to 740mm. They were 800 to begin with, which was far too big for when you went to be riding through traffic. So they're substantially shorter now, which is great. I've also picked up this lovely little specialised pizza box that you can see on the front, which has proved perfect for carrying around my tins of beer, my shopping, my clothes, basically anything I've needed to go anywhere fits in there like an absolute treat. A couple of bungee cords over the top, job's a good one. So there you go, that's my Surly dream commuter build built up, as you can see behind me. Now, if you have any dream bike builds that you've been wanting to do for a long time, then please let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Cycling Weekly YouTube channels, and be sure to tick the little bell notification so you get pop-ups when we publish a video.